everything's fine on 93.9 Dublin South FM.
Good afternoon, I'm Charmaine Colvin and you are listening to Apna Radio 93.9 Dublin South FM. On India this week, the European Union Indian Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal has said that India is close to finalising large parts of its free trade agreement with the European Union. The remarks come ahead of a visit from top EU trade officials for further negotiations starting the 12th of September. The talks are happening as US President Donald Trump has called on EU leaders to impose 100% tariffs on India and China for buying Russian oil. The US has imposed a 50% tariff on goods from India, which includes a 25% penalty for its transactions with Russia. The US President made the demand during a meeting between US and EU officials last week, discussing options to increase economic pressure on Russia. Trump has said that he plans to talk to Putin on a call this week or early next week. China and India are major buyers of Russian oil, which helps to keep the country's economy and war machine afloat. India and the EU relaunched free trade discussions in 2021 after a prolonged pause and are working to get a deal through by the end of the year. On Tuesday, Mr. Goyal said that 60 to 65% of the chapters of the trade agreement had already been finalised, news agency ANI reports. EU trade negotiators arrived in Delhi earlier in the week to prepare for the talks. Additionally, a 28-member delegation of the EU's Political and Security Committee also arrived on Wednesday to discuss key foreign policy, security and defence-related matters in the lead-up to the upcoming EU-India summit next year. Earlier this week, the naval forces of India and EU conducted their first coordinated exercise in the Indian Ocean to strengthen maritime security. Besides FTA negotiations, officials from the PSC are expected to discuss India's role in mediating in the Russia-Ukraine war, local media reported. Despite their differences, India and EU are expected to press ahead with trade negotiations. Some 6,000 EU companies operate in India, and the bloc is India's largest trading partner in goods, with bilateral trade reaching $135 billion in 2022 to 23, and nearly doubling in the last decade. Last year, India also signed a $100 billion free trade agreement with the European Free Trade Association, a group of 4 European countries that are not members of the European Union, after almost 16 years of negotiations. The Indian-UK FTA has come into effect this July. US President Donald Trump said on Tuesday his administration is continuing negotiations to address trade barriers with India and that he would talk to Prime Minister Narendra Modi in a sign of a reset after weeks of diplomatic friction. Trump, in a marked shift of tone, said he looked forward to speaking to Modi in the upcoming weeks and expressed optimism that they could finalise a trade deal. I feel certain that there will be no difficulty in coming to a successful conclusion for both of our great countries, he said in a post on social media. Modi reciprocated the optimism in a social media post on Wednesday, saying Washington and New Delhi are close friends and natural partners. He said teams from both countries are working to conclude the trade discussions at the earliest. The latest comments from both leaders drove India's shares up over 0.5%. Trump has promised for months that the two sides were close to clinching a trade deal, only to double new tariffs on Indian imports to 50%, sparking questions about the future of the US-India relationship, which has strengthened in recent years, including during Trump's first term. The discord with the US has coincided with India warming up to China. Late last month, Modi made his first visit to China in 7 years for a summit hosted by Chinese President Xi Jinping and was seen holding hands with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Indian and US trade officials are likely to plan visits to restart in-person trade talks in September. A planned visit by US trade negotiators to New Delhi from August the 25th to the 29th was cancelled after trade talks hit major roadblocks. India has elected CP Radhakrishnan, a nominee of the ruling BJP-led alliance, as the country's next vice president, weeks after the previous person to hold the post resigned abruptly. Radhakrishnan won 452 valid votes in the 781-member electoral college, made up of members of the upper and lower houses of parliament, to defeat opposition-backed Sudarshan Reddy, a former Supreme Court judge. A veteran BJP politician, Radhakrishnan is the current governor of Maharashtra state, is also served on various parliamentary committees. PM Narendra Modi congratulated him, saying he would make an outstanding vice president who will strengthen constitutional values. The elections are significant as they were held after Jagdeep Dhankar resigned from the post in July, citing health reasons. Dhankar took office in August 2022 and his term was set to run until 27. His abrupt resignation sparked speculation amongst opposition leaders about a possible rift between him and top BJP leaders in the government. Scientists say the climate change crisis is changing the behaviour of the monsoon. Half of India is reeling under floods this year after extraordinary downpours, with Punjab facing its worst deluge since 1988. Some parts of Punjab, Haryana and Rajasthan saw rains more than 1,000% above normal in just 24 hours, the Indian Meteorology Department says. Between the 28th of August and the 3rd of September, rainfall in northwest India was 180% above average, and in the south it was 73%. More heavy rain is forecast across large parts of the country this week. The rains have caused landslides and floods in several parts of the country, inundating villages and towns and killing hundreds. Scientists say one of the main changes is that there is a much higher amount of moisture in the air now from both the Indian Ocean and the Arabian Sea due to warmer climate. Also, in the past, monsoon rains were steady and spread evenly over the 4 months, June, July, August and September. But meteorologists say they have observed the rains now often fall in huge volumes within a small area in a short span of time after a prolonged dry spell. Experts say this is increasingly happening in the mountainous regions where massive moisture-laden clouds hit the hills, pouring huge amounts of rain very quickly in a small area, a phenomenon known as cloudburst. Despite warning of an above normal monsoon rainfall this year, river embankments and age-old drains in many places remain unrepaired, while plastic waste clogs waterways meant to reduce urban floods. Experts say these issues must be addressed timely to minimise the impacts and losses caused by rains and floods. India is working to obtain rare earth samples from Myanmar with the assistance of a powerful rebel group, according to 4 people familiar with the matter, as it seeks alternative supplies of a strategic resource tightly controlled by China. India's Ministry of Mines asked state-owned and private firms to explore collecting and transporting samples from mines in northeastern Myanmar that are under the control of the Kachin Independence Army, 3 of the people said. State-owned miner IREL and private firm Midwest Advanced Materials, which received government funding last year for the commercial manufacturing of rare earth magnets, were among those involved in the discussions, the sources said. New Delhi hopes to test the samples in domestic labs to ensure they contain sufficient levels of heavy rare earths that can be processed into magnets used in electronic vehicles and other advanced equipment, according to the people. And finally, a new Bollywood film has reignited an age-old conversation around how India's largest and most influential film industry represents characters from non-Hindi-speaking states. Param Sundari, a rom-com starring Siddharth Malhotra and Janhvi Kapoor, is a love story between a woman from the southern state of Kerala and a man from Delhi in northern India. Param and Sundari first butt heads and then fall in love, successfully overcoming the cultural differences between them. This idea isn't new. Bollywood has long explored north-south cultural clashes through rom-coms, and in a multilingual country, well-executed cross-cultural romances can be a hit. But in this case, critics and social media users from Kerala and beyond have called out the film for its caricatured depiction of the state, particularly Sundari. In a blistering review, critic Rajendran slammed the film as generic, exhausting and offensive, saying that it hides tired clichés behind an exotic Kerala setting and a score that overplays the land's foreignness. Films often face and survive casting criticisms. Chennai Express 2013 was panned by critics but soared at the box office. And that's all from me. You have been listening to India This Week on Apna Radio 93.9 Dublin South FM.
Everything's fine on 93.9 Dublin South FM.